The red liquid in the syringe caught the bedroom light and glowed like a warning. Monica's hands did not shake. Her face was swollen, her lips split, and a trail of dried tears made pale lines across her makeup. Andrew lay on the bed, fast asleep, mouth half open, his right hand, the same hand that slapped, resting on the duvet. The house was quiet. The city outside hummed low and far away. Monica took one slow breath, stepped close, and raised the syringe toward Andrew's right arm. The needle touched his skin. Her eyes hardened. And then everything went dark for us, and we go back to the start. It did not begin with a syringe. It began with a smile that fooled the world. On social media, Monica and Andrew were couple goals. He was a billionaire CEO with a smooth voice and a softer smile. She was a pretty woman with gentle eyes, always well-dressed, always kind. Videos showed him opening the car door for her at the mall, and fans wrote, "Oh, husband of the year." There was a clip of him bringing her tea in bed, tray neat, napkin folded. "My queen," he said on camera, and the comments exploded, "Perfect marriage." God, when? But the truth lived behind closed doors. Every evening, when the lights were off and the phones were not recording, Monica would lock the bathroom door and cry into a towel so no one would hear. When the crying stopped, she washed her face, dabbed on thick foundation to hide redness, and told herself, love will change him. Love will make him gentle again. She brushed her hair, pressed her lips together, and smiled for the next day's video. Her friend Debbie saw through it. "Monica, be honest with yourself," Debbie whispered one afternoon in a quiet cafe. "Walk out alive. You don't have to die to prove love. You don't have to bleed to keep a picture perfect." "What will people say?" Monica asked, eyes wet. "They believe we are perfect. I made them believe." "People will not carry your pain," Debbie replied. "Your pain is your own." The fights began with small things, then grew teeth. A shirt not ironed the way Andrew liked. A dinner that came warm, not hot. A whisper about babies. The whisper that became a storm. 5 years. No child. People online still wrote, "soon," and added prayer hands and hearts. But in the house, Andrew's words cut sharper than any blade. "You are the problem," he would say. "You are the reason there is no child." They went to the hospital. Monica did, many times. Doctors tested her and said she was fine. "You are okay," one doctor told her gently. "There is nothing wrong with you." Monica begged Andrew to test too. He said no. His pride stood tall like a wall. He was rich. He was strong. He was the man. He would not hear it. When Monica pressed him softly, "Please, it will help us," his face changed. The anger came fast. The hand came faster. One evening, after a charity gala where they smiled for photos under golden lights, they returned home. Monica removed her heels, and the pain in her feet felt small compared to the pain in her chest. Andrew's phone buzzed. He frowned and asked, "Where is my dinner?" "In the warmer," she said. "I kept it hot." "I said I want it on the table when I enter my house." "I'm sorry, Andrew. Let me bring it." It did not matter. His voice went hard. His right hand rose. The slap rang out in the kitchen like thunder in a tin roof. She stumbled into a cabinet. Plates trembled. Somewhere in her mouth, blood tasted like metal. He stepped close, whispering, "Don't make me repeat myself." The next morning, they posted a video of him pouring tea for her in bed. Comments filled the screen. "We love you both. Teach us love." At the mall the weekend after, Andrew opened the car door for her and touched her shoulder. Cameras clicked. Fans cheered. Monica smiled like a doll whose strings were pulled by invisible hands. Behind her sunglasses, a bruise slept. Debbie sent another message. "Please leave." Monica typed and erased a reply. She looked at her reflection in the lift mirror. The mirror looked back without judgment, but her heart did. The day everything snapped started like any other. Bright sun, perfect dress, scheduled brand shoot. Andrew returned early. A simple sentence became a spark. "You posted the wrong caption," he said. "I used the one the company sent," she answered softly. "Don't talk back." His right hand landed heavy. Another blow followed. The room blurred. A vase fell and broke. Monica's head rang. He pushed her into the wall, words pouring out. Hot, ugly, bitter. You give me nothing, not even a child. She crumpled to the floor and hugged herself while his footsteps left the room. The silence after a storm can feel louder than the storm. She sat on the cold tiles and watched her own breath move in and out. The house smelled like fresh roses from a delivered bouquet. Her cheek throbbed. A tiny patch of makeup smeared on the wall behind her head. In that quiet, something inside Monica died. Something else stood up. She rose, slow and stiff, and walked to the mirror. She did not hide the bruises. She opened the vanity drawer and stared at the long row of foundations and powders, each one a thin shield she had used to cover a heavy war. She closed the drawer. She moved to the door and peeked down the hallway. Andrew had thrown himself on the bed, one arm over his eyes, breathing heavy and annoyed. He always slept after. He always trusted the quiet. Monica went to the kitchen. The house staff had gone home. The kitchen was stainless steel and lemon-scented soap. She opened the small medicine fridge where they kept injections for Andrew's special wellness routines. Vitamins, performance drips, things his private doctor supplied for energy after long flights and board meetings. A small vial sat in a back corner, red like a warning light. It did not belong to the wellness tray. It was part of a security training kit Sam once showed her. For demonstrations only, madam, never to be used. It caused rapid swelling in a test limb to show guards how to respond to emergencies. Monica had asked months ago what would happen if it entered a human arm. Sam had laughed nervously and said, "Madam, it's not for humans." She picked up the vial now and read the tiny label. Her heart pounded so hard it felt like the room vibrated. She fetched a sterile syringe from the first aid drawer, attached the needle, and drew the red solution, slow and steady. The plunger climbed. The line on the barrel passed. She stopped. She was not a doctor. She knew only one thing. His right hand had built a cage around her life. When she returned to the room, her steps were calm. The air conditioner hummed. Andrew slept on his back, the right arm bare, the skin warm, the veins faint under it. Monica stood over him. She could hear Debbie's voice in her head. Walk out alive. She could hear her own voice too. What will people say? She could hear nothing and everything, and then only one sentence. No more. The needle touched his skin. Andrew's eyes opened. Mon, what are you? She pushed the plunger. He gasped and tried to jerk away, but it was too late. He sat up fast, eyes wild. His right arm tingled, then burned, then ballooned as if air was trapped under the skin. My arm! My arm! He screamed, falling back onto the pillows. He clawed at it with his left hand, but the right grew heavy, red and strange, pulsing like it had its own angry heartbeat. Help! He shouted, voice cracking. Sam! Sam! Footsteps pounded in the corridor. The head of security burst in, chest rising, eyes wide. Madam? Ogre? He froze when he saw Andrew's arm, now swollen and hot. What happened? Andrew pointed with his chin, tears already forming. She injected me. Monica did this. Monica did not step back. She did not run. She walked to the dresser, picked up her phone and dialed. Her voice was steady. Hello, police? My name is Monica. I need you to come. Yes. I injected my husband. Sirens wailed in the distance, small at first, then growing. Sam reached for the emergency kit, shouting into his walkie-talkie for the driver and the car and the nearest hospital. Andrew sobbed, his pride stripped, his face raw in panic. Monica stood by the window, the phone still warm in her hand, and watched the red and blue lights bend around the gates as they swung open. The sirens screamed into the compound, and then the front door slammed, and heavy boots rushed the stairs, straight toward the room. The sirens echoed through the mansion like a final warning. Red and blue lights washed over the white walls, turning the perfect home into a crime scene. Officers rushed up the stairs, their boots pounding like drums of judgment, and within seconds, Monica stood face to face with the police. Madam Monica? The lead officer asked. Her voice did not shake. Yes, I am the one you were called for. Behind them, Andrew's screams grew louder. His right arm was swelling at a frightening speed, thick, purple, and hot like fire under his skin. Sam tried to hold him steady while another guard ran for ice packs. She injected me. She injected me, Andrew cried, pointing with his left hand. "Arrest her!" The officers exchanged looks. One of them moved toward Monica, but she did not move. She simply raised both hands slowly, her bruised face catching the flash of the police light. "Madam, what exactly happened?" the lead officer asked. Her eyes glistened, but her voice stayed even. "You will hear everything, but right now he needs the hospital. Take him." The officer hesitated, torn between the screaming billionaire and the calm, battered woman standing before him. Sam lifted Andrew off the bed. The swollen arm drooped like a heavy dead weight. Andrew screamed louder, echoing across the compound. The officers led Monica out of the room, handcuffed but silent. She didn't resist. She didn't cry. She simply walked, steady and sure, as if her heart had made peace with something days ago. As they moved down the hall, the mansion staff peeked from corners, terrified, confused. They had never seen Monica's face without makeup. The bruises, the swollen eye, the faint scar near her lip, everything was visible now, raw and uncovered. Outside, neighbors stood at their balconies. Phones were already out. Cameras were already recording. The perfect couple the world worshipped was now on display again, but this time without filters. And for the first time, Monica did not hide. At the hospital, chaos swallowed Andrew. Doctors rushed around him as Sam filled forms and shouted for help. The emergency ward doors swung open and they laid the billionaire on the table. His arm was enormous now, too swollen to bend, too tight to touch. The skin looked stretched, angry, and dangerous. "What happened?" one of the doctors asked. Andrew's voice was weak but desperate. "My wife, Monica, she injected something red. My arm, I can't—" "Get the toxicology kit," the doctor yelled. They cut open his shirt, placed monitors on his chest, and inserted IV lines. Andrew cried out again as another doctor tried to examine his arm. "I can't feel it," he whispered, shocked. "I can't feel my hand." "Sir, stay calm," the nurse said. "Just breathe." But Andrew couldn't stay calm. Panic twisted his face. His heartbeat spiked on the monitor. Sweat dripped down his forehead. Then the doctor who ran the toxicology test froze. He stared at the result, then back at the swollen arm, then at Andrew. "Sir," he said slowly, "you were injected with a substance used for nerve damage demonstrations. It is not for humans. It destroys nerves within minutes." Andrew blinked, confused. What does that mean?" Another doctor stepped forward, voice heavy. "It means the nerves in your right arm are already gone, and spreading. The only way to save your life is to amputate." Andrew shook his head fast, too fast. "No, no, no. I'm a billionaire. There has to be a way. Do something, call another doctor. Call London. Call anyone." The doctor placed a hand on his shoulder. "Sir, if we don't amputate within the next hour, the infection will reach your bloodstream. You will die." Silence fell. Even the machines seemed to pause. Andrew looked at his swollen arm, once a symbol of his power, the hand he used to sign deals, shake partners, slap his wife. Now a dead, useless limb. Tears spilled down his cheeks. "Please," he whispered, broken, "save my life." The doctors moved quickly. Consent papers were signed. The surgical team prepared the operating room. Andrew cried as they wheeled him inside, his left hand covering his face. Sam stood alone in the hallway, stunned. "Madam Monica, why?" he whispered to himself. But deep down, he already knew. He had heard the shouting for years. He had seen the bruises Monica covered with makeup. He had looked away because he needed the job. Because Andrew paid him well. Because sometimes silence feels easier than truth. Now the truth stood tall and demanded to be seen. Hours later, while Andrew was in surgery fighting for his life, Monica sat in a small police cell at the station. The bench was cold, the air smelled like old dust and metal. Her hands were still cuffed, but her shoulders were straight, her eyes were steady. A young female officer approached her. "Madam, do you want water?" Monica nodded slowly. The officer poured water into a plastic cup and held it through the bars. Monica drank, then whispered, "Thank you." The officer hesitated before speaking again. "Madam, is it true? What the news is saying? That Chief Andrew, did he really—" Monica looked up. "Yes," she said, "every day." The officer pressed her lips together. Her eyes softened. She did not ask more, because she already knew the truth. Women are forced to hide in silence. By morning, Lagos was awake with noise and shock. Every blog carried the same headline: Perfect couple scandal, billionaire. Andrew rushed for arm amputation after domestic incident. Pictures leaked, Monica's arrest, Andrew being pushed into the emergency ward, the swollen arm inside a bandage. People who once admired them now typed fast, "So the marriage was fake? What happened to his arm? This is too much. There is more to this story." They were right, much more was coming. In the evening, the doctor walked into Andrew's room. The surgery was over. Andrew lay on the bed with a heavy bandage wrapping the place where his right arm used to be. The doctor spoke gently. "Sir, the arm is gone." Andrew turned his head slowly. When he saw the empty space where his arm should have been, a strangled cry left his throat. He broke down completely, shaking with grief. Everything he used to be, confident, proud, feared, crumbled into pieces. The monster had met his consequence. And across the city, in a lonely police cell, Monica sat with silent tears as the last 48 hours replayed in her mind like a storm she could not stop. The world was about to hear her truth. But first, she had to survive what was coming next. The morning of the arraignment was cold and grey, the kind of morning that made Lagos feel smaller, quieter, and somehow heavier. Outside the courthouse, a sea of reporters gathered, cameras raised, microphones pointed, eyes wide with the hunger for a story the nation had never seen before. A billionaire with an amputated arm, a wife accused of injecting her husband, a perfect marriage now shattered, and everyone wanted answers. Inside a small holding room, Monica sat on a bench with her hands cuffed in front of her. She wore a plain brown prison dress. Her hair was tied back, showing every bruise on her face, dark marks on her cheek, a swollen eyelid, a faint cut near her lip. She did nothing to hide them. Her tears had dried hours ago. A female guard named Officer Grace stood beside her, quiet but watchful. She had been careful with Monica since the night of the arrest, bringing her water, checking her wounds, treating her with a kind of gentle respect that prisoners rarely received. "Are you ready, Madam Monica?" Officer Grace asked softly. Monica didn't lift her head. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I have no choice, do I?" Grace sighed. "You will speak your truth today. That is all you can do." Before Monica could reply, the door opened. "Bring the defendant out," an officer ordered. Monica stood, took a long breath, and walked forward. The chains around her wrists rattled with each step. The courtroom was full. Judges, lawyers, journalists, family members, and curious onlookers filled every seat. Murmurs floated through the air like restless birds. At the front stood Justice Margaret Johnson, a firm, middle-aged woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Order in the court," she announced as the session began. The double doors opened again. Andrew entered. He sat in a wheelchair, pushed by a nurse. His right arm was gone, replaced by thick white bandages wrapped around the stump. His face was pale, his cheeks sunken, his eyes glassy with pain and shame. Beside him stood his assistant, Dan, holding documents and tissues. Gasps filled the room as cameras zoomed in. The once powerful billionaire now looked like a broken man. When Andrew's eyes landed on Monica, he froze. For a long second, no one blinked, no one breathed. Then Andrew looked down at his lap, unable to meet her gaze. Monica's heart twisted painfully as she saw him. This was the man she once prayed for, the man she loved enough to hide bruises for, the man she hoped would change. And now, here they were, destroyed in front of the whole country. The bailiff guided Monica to the dock. Justice Margaret adjusted her glasses and spoke. "Monica Andrew, you are hereby charged with domestic abuse, violence against your spouse, and assault resulting in grievous bodily harm, leading to the amputation of your husband's right arm. How do you plead?" Silence swallowed the courtroom. Monica lifted her chin. Her eyes were clear. Her voice did not shake. "Not guilty, my lord." A ripple of shock ran across the room. Even Andrew looked up again. Justice Margaret nodded. "You may speak." Monica let the breath she had been holding escape slowly. Then she began. "This man sitting here," she said, pointing gently toward Andrew, "has been beating me for 4 years." The courtroom erupted immediately. Gasps, whispers, murmurs, trembling hands, reporters scribbling fast. Justice Margaret raised a hand. "Order," Monica continued. "I endured it because I loved him. I believed he would change. I hid everything behind makeup, behind smiles, behind perfect videos for the world." Andrew closed his eyes, tears sliding down slowly. Monica touched the bruises on her cheek. "This," she said, "is today's injury. But if you check my medical records, you will see many more. Injuries that came from his hand." The judge nodded, listening closely. Monica's voice softened but shook with emotion. "We could not have children. And he blamed me. But doctors said I was fine. They begged him to test too, but he refused. His ego would not allow it. So he used his pain to punish me. Every evening." She paused, trembling slightly. "My lord, I cried myself to sleep almost every night. I lied to the world. I lied to myself. I lied to everyone who admired us." She reached into her pocket where Officer Grace had placed a small flash drive earlier. "This flash contains videos," Monica said. "I recorded some of the beatings with hidden cameras. I never wanted to use them. But today I must." The judge looked at the bailiff. "Play the contents." A screen lowered from the ceiling. The courtroom darkened. Video 1 began. Andrew stood over Monica in the living room, shouting insults. He slapped her 3 times in a row. She stumbled into a chair. He grabbed her arm, shook her, pushed her to the floor. The courtroom gasped. Video 2. Andrew dragged her by the hair. Monica cried, begging him to stop. He slapped her again. Video 3. Andrew kicking the door of the bathroom while Monica hid inside. "Come out," he yelled. "You think you can talk back to me? You think you have a right to speak?" When the lights came back on, some people were wiping tears. Even Justice Margaret had tightened her jaw. Andrew's head hung low in shame. His shoulders shook as he cried silently. Monica wiped her own tears and continued. "My lord, I lost 2 front teeth because of him. I had to get them replaced. My face is permanently bruised. My left cheekbone is cracked. My ribs have been injured more times than I can count." She looked straight at Andrew now. "You made me a prisoner. You made me a shadow. You made me something I do not even recognize." Dan placed a hand on Andrew's shoulder as the billionaire sobbed openly. Monica's voice grew stronger. "I did not plan to kill him. I did not plan to harm him. That day, I snapped. I broke. I reached a point where my body could not take more, my mind could not take more. I defended myself. That is why I injected that arm, the same arm he used to beat me." A heavy silence followed. Justice Margaret leaned forward, studying Monica carefully, her trembling hands, her bruised face, her swollen eye. "Your lord," Monica said softly, "I did not act out of hatred. I acted out of fear, out of pain, out of survival. I never wanted this to happen. I only wanted my life back." She closed her eyes, letting one final tear fall. The courtroom remained frozen. Justice Margaret turned slowly toward Andrew. "Do you have anything to say?" Andrew opened his mouth, but no words came. He buried his face in his left hand and cried harder. The judge turned back to Monica. "After reviewing this evidence," she began. Everyone leaned forward. The reporters' pens hovered. Andrew looked up again, his face pale. Monica gripped the rail tightly. Justice Margaret took a breath, and then she delivered a ruling that changed everything. The courtroom was so silent that the tick of the judge's wristwatch sounded like thunder. Justice Margaret Johnson looked down at the papers before her, then at Monica, then at Andrew. Her face showed no emotion, only the calm, controlled strength of a judge who understood the weight of every word she was about to say. She folded her hands, leaned back slightly, and began. "This court has seen many cases of domestic violence, but very few carry wounds as deep, hidden, and painful as this one." The audience shifted. Some dabbed away tears. Others held their breath. Justice Margaret continued, "We have watched videos that cannot be unseen. We have heard testimony that cannot be ignored. Andrew, your actions were cruel, violent, and persistent. You turned your wife into a victim inside her own home, a home that should have been her safety. Andrew lowered his head again, his tears dripping onto his hospital gown. However, the judge said, her tone firm, Monica, while you were a victim, you also committed a criminal act. Instead of seeking help through the law, you took the law into your own hands. The substance you injected into your husband was dangerous. It resulted in irreparable damage and the amputation of his right arm. That cannot be overlooked. Monica's heart clenched. Her hands began to tremble. Officer Grace, who stood beside her, gently touched her elbow in silent support. The judge lifted her gavel slightly and spoke the words everyone had been waiting to hear. Therefore, this court hereby sentences you, Monica Andrew, to 6 months in prison. Gasps exploded across the room. Some cried out in shock, others whispered in disbelief. A few reporters stood up without thinking. Monica closed her eyes tightly. Her chest rose and fell in a sharp breath. 6 months. It wasn't as long as it could have been. But still, it felt like a mountain. Justice Margaret continued, raising her voice to restore order. It would have been a longer sentence, but evidence clearly shows that you were pushed to a psychological breaking point. You lived in fear. You were abused physically and emotionally for years. Your husband's actions created a monster inside you, one he never expected to face. She paused, allowing the words to settle. Andrew grabbed the side of his wheelchair, his face shadowed with guilt and pain. Justice Margaret looked directly at him. Andrew, you may be a billionaire, but in this case, wealth could not hide the truth. Your actions fed this tragedy. For the first time, Andrew did not try to defend himself. He bowed his head, broken. Finally, the judge said, turning back to the paperwork, this court grants Monica's request for the dissolution of her marriage. The union between Monica and Andrew is officially dissolved. Additionally, Monica is entitled to 30% of all wealth acquired during the course of the marriage. A roar of noise filled the courtroom again. 30% of a billionaire's wealth. Reporters scribbled faster, cameras flashed, lawyers on both sides exchanged startled glances. Even Andrew's assistant, Dan, blinked in confusion. Monica, however, did not move. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply stood still, like a woman too tired to feel anything yet. Justice Margaret struck her gavel. Court dismissed. As Monica was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, reporters rushed toward her. Monica, do you have anything to say? Did you really endure abuse for 4 years? Do you regret injecting him? Why did you stay so long? Flashes lit her face like lightning. Officer Grace pushed the crowd back. Give her space. Move back. But the questions kept coming. They were sharp. They were loud. They were endless. And each one stabbed her heart in a different place. A prison van soon pulled up outside. Monica climbed inside, her hands still cuffed. The door slammed behind her with a hollow metal clang. She stared through the small window as the van pulled away. Reporters chased after it until they couldn't keep up. The courthouse grew smaller and smaller in the distance. Her freedom was gone. Her marriage was gone. The world she had tried so hard to perfect was gone. All that remained was truth, the kind of truth that destroys and heals at the same time. Meanwhile, inside the courthouse hallway, Andrew sat in his wheelchair, staring at the crowded exit. His bandaged right arm rested on his lap. The stump throbbed with pain, both physical and emotional. Dan crouched beside him. Sir, should we head back to the hospital? Andrew didn't answer. Sir, Dan repeated softly. Andrew wiped his tears with his left hand. His voice cracked. Dan, do you think the whole world hates me now? Dan hesitated. He wanted to lie. He wanted to comfort him. But he couldn't. Sir, people are angry. They've seen the videos. Andrew's chest tightened. I lost everything, he whispered. My arm, my marriage, my reputation. He looked toward the courtroom doors. And I deserve it. Dan lowered his eyes. Andrew wiped his face again. Do you think she hates me too? Dan swallowed. I don't think Monica hates you, sir. I think she was tired. I think she was broken. Andrew stared down at the bandages. I made her this way, he said, voice shaking. I made her do this. Then his phone vibrated. He slowly pulled it out with his left hand. It was his company board. He lifted the phone to his ear. "Sir, we're informing you formally," the voice on the other side said. "Your investors are pulling out. Your shareholders are selling rapidly. The scandal has affected the company terribly. We may need you to resign to protect what's left." Andrew felt as if the floor had dropped from under him. "Resign," he whispered. "I'm sorry, sir." Andrew ended the call with trembling fingers and covered his face. He cried like someone who had lost everything, because he had. His assistant stood beside him helplessly, not knowing where to start or what to say. Hours later, the prison van stopped. Monica stepped out slowly. The prison gates stood tall and heavy, their metal bars cold and unforgiving. The air smelled of disinfectant and dust. Prison officers checked her paperwork before escorting her inside. As she walked through the narrow corridors toward her cell, memories hit her one after the other. Andrew's wedding vows, her white dress, their first apartment, the first time he kissed her forehead, the first time he slapped her lies on social media, her tears hidden in darkness, the syringe, the courtroom, the judge's voice. Everything blurred together. She reached her cell. The door opened with a metallic groan. Inside was a simple iron bed, a bucket, a small window high on the wall. The room was cold, quiet, and lonely. When the door shut behind her, Monica finally let herself fall to her knees. She pressed her head against the wall and cried, not loudly, but deeply. Not because she was in prison, but because of everything she had lost long before today: her innocence, her marriage, her self-worth, her peace. She cried for the woman she used to be. She cried for the girl who believed love could fix everything. And then she cried because she had survived, even if survival came at a terrible cost. Outside her cell, Officer Grace watched through the bars. She didn't speak. She didn't interrupt. She just stood there with soft eyes, giving Monica the one thing she had never truly had inside her marriage: a quiet moment to feel her own pain. Monica wiped her face slowly. Her tears dropped onto the cold floor. "This can't be the end," she whispered to herself. "It won't be." But neither she nor Andrew knew that life was about to hit them both, with consequences even harder than today. Because the world had only just begun talking. And tomorrow, things would get worse. 3 days after Monica entered prison, the entire country was still buzzing. Every radio station, every morning show, every blog, every social media page had one headline: "The perfect couple was a lie." Billionaire Andrew loses right arm. Monica sentenced to 6 months. Abuse scandal shakes the nation. People who once prayed to have a marriage like theirs now shook their heads in shock. Those who had admired their online videos felt betrayed. Those who suspected something was wrong felt vindicated. And those who understood abuse finally had the courage to speak about their own pain. But while the world talked, the two people at the center of the storm were living a different reality. Monica was in a cold cell. Andrew was in a cold hospital room. Both were broken. Both were alone. And both had no idea what tomorrow would bring. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft beeping of medical machines. Andrew lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the judge's words over and over in his mind. Cruel, violent, persistent. You created the monster that finally turned on you. The arm you used to beat her is gone. Those words stung more than the pain in his shoulder. Dan, his assistant, entered the room carefully. "Sir, you have visitors." Andrew didn't respond. "Sir, should I let them in?" "Who?" Andrew asked weakly. "Your investors." Andrew turned his head, slowly, painfully. No, Dan, I can't meet them like this." Dan swallowed. "Sir, they said it's not optional." Before Andrew could speak, the investors entered. 3 men in suits, their faces stiff, eyes cold, voices tight. "Andrew," the first man said, "we need to be blunt. The company is collapsing. The scandal is everywhere. Your face, your videos, your amputated arm. It's all over the news." The second man opened a folder. "Shares have dropped 54% in 2 days. The third added, "We need you to resign publicly, tonight." Andrew squeezed the sheets with his remaining hand. You want me to step down? Yes, the first man replied, and hand over the company to an acting CEO immediately. Andrew's voice cracked. You're firing me? From the company I built? We're saving the company from you, the second man said plainly. Dan stood in the corner, unable to watch. The first man continued, Sign the resignation letter. We will release it within an hour. Andrew stared at the paper placed before him. His hand trembled, his vision blurred. My whole life, he whispered. Everything I worked for. Sign it, the third man said, or we will take legal force. The room felt heavy, cold, cruel. Andrew picked up the pen slowly with his left hand, his only hand, and signed away his empire. The moment the pen left the paper, he felt something break inside him. The investors picked up the document and walked out without another word. Dan approached him gently. Sir, I'm so sorry. Andrew didn't respond. He just stared at the bandaged stump where his arm used to be. It's all gone, Dan, he whispered. My arm, my marriage, my company, my reputation, everything. Dan placed a hand on his shoulder, but Andrew looked away, crying silently into the pillow. For the first time in his life, he was completely powerless. Prison was not the worst place Monica had ever been. Strangely, she realized that. Silence here was kinder than silence at home. The walls here did not yell at her. The nights here did not hold footsteps that made her heart jump. She missed her freedom, yes. She missed her bed. She missed fresh air. She missed the taste of cold water from her own kitchen. But what she did not miss was fear. In this cell, she finally breathed without waiting for a slap. Officer Grace brought her a small tray of food and sat down beside the bars. How are you holding up? Monica gave a sad little smile. I'm trying. Grace nodded slowly. The world is talking about you, you know. I know, Monica said quietly. I can feel it. Grace hesitated before asking, Do you regret what you did? Monica looked down at her bruised knuckles, at the faint scars on her wrists, at the marks on her face that makeup once covered. I regret that my life got to that point, she said honestly. I regret loving a man who did not love me back. I regret lying to everyone. I regret staying silent. She exhaled shakily. But do I regret defending myself that night? No. Grace nodded slowly. You are stronger than you think. Monica shook her head. I'm broken. Sometimes, Grace said softly, broken people survive storms that perfect people cannot. Monica looked up, eyes filling with tears. Before Grace could speak again, a guard called out from the hallway, Visitor for Monica. Monica's heart stopped. Who? Debbie. The moment she heard the name, Monica gasped. Debbie entered quickly, eyes wide with worry. Monica. Oh my God, look at you. Tears rushed down Monica's face as her friend pulled her into a tight embrace through the bars. I'm so sorry, Debbie whispered. I should have pushed harder. I should have made you leave. Monica shook her head. It wasn't your fault. Debbie wiped her tears and held her hands through the bars. You will not be alone when you come out. I promise you that. Monica cried harder. I don't know how to start again. You will, Debbie said firmly. You will rebuild. You will heal, and the world will know the truth now. Monica took a deep breath. And Andrew? Debbie sighed. His videos are everywhere. People are angry. He lost his company today. Monica's eyes widened. He lost everything? Debbie nodded slowly. Yes, everything. Monica leaned back against the wall, overwhelmed. She didn't smile. She didn't feel joy. She just felt sad that a marriage filled with so much promise had ended with so much destruction. What happens now? Monica whispered. Debbie squeezed her hands gently. Now, you serve your time, and then you rise. Later that night, Andrew finally opened his phone. Thousands of messages poured in. You're a monster. She should have left you years ago. I used to admire you. Now I'm ashamed. This is what happens when you mistreat a woman. Andrew dropped the phone and held his head. He thought he had lost everything earlier, but now he understood the real punishment. He would live with who he was, who he chose to be, and the whole world would never forget. His amputated arm was not the deepest wound. The truth was, that night, Monica lay on her hard prison bed, staring at the ceiling. This was the ugliest, darkest chapter of her life, but it was not the end. She placed her hand over her heart and whispered, "I will live, I will heal, and I will never hide again." Her tears dried, her heart steadied, and somewhere deep inside her, a small spark of strength returned. What do you think will happen next? What is your view about this story? Comment, share, and subscribe to our channel to watch the continuation of the story when we upload it.